Welcome to At Home with Music. I'm Leon Olguin. I've been playing piano in church since 1972, 73. I was 12, 13 years old when I first started. And in fact, that marks the beginning of my career as a professional musician because the church eventually decided that I should be paid for my efforts, even though I was so young. And so I've been playing the piano in church ever since. I still do to this day. At the church that my wife and I currently attend, I get to be part of the worship team back there. I get to play the grand piano in the church facility where we meet every week, and that's always been a great deal of fun, tremendous blessing. A lot of times I've been called upon, well, I should say many, countless times I've been called upon to play hymns. And when you look at hymns in the hymnal, they're written out in a particular way, which I will explain here in just a moment. Maybe you want to play a hymn. Maybe you want to play it as a soloist or play it as an accompanist. Now, a lot of times when I played hymns in the church, I would emphasize the melody to help people follow along. If somebody was singing a hymn as a soloist and they didn't need that kind of reinforcement, I could create my own accompaniment. And that was something that I learned to do gradually over the years because I knew how to play by reading the music, but I also learned gradually over the years how to play by ear, how to create my own accompaniments. And so I'd like to help you, in a sense, get your musical foot in the door to do the same thing. So we're going to take a very famous hymn, that being Blessed Assurance, Jesus is Mine, written by Phoebe Knapp, and a name that you may recognize, Fanny Crosby. Fanny Crosby, of course, was one of the most famous hymn writers of all time, and she wrote over 9,000 hymns. Now, I've written hymns and worship songs, but I've certainly not even approached 1,000, let alone 9,000. Anyway, what we're going to do is take a look at the music. I'm going to show you how to prepare the music as it's taken out of a hymnal to enable you to play it both as a soloist and as an accompanist. So we're going to, first of all, show you the music. My hand will come into the frame there, and I'll show you how you could mark it up. Maybe you don't want to do this in one of your church's hymnals, but you could actually make a copy of the page and do this. And this will enable you to get ready to play the hymn without worrying about trying to read all the notes like you would a classical piece of music. Let's take a look at the sheet music here for Blessed Assurance. As you prepare to play this hymn, what we're going to do is add chords to this hymn as it's printed out in a hymnal. I got this off of hymnary.org. And so if you look at some hymnals, they will put the chords in there for you. But in this particular hymnal, the chords are not included. What we're going to do is create, in a sense, a lead sheet of this hymn so that when you play it, you can concentrate on the melody and the chords, which is what you would do anytime you're playing from a lead sheet. So you don't need to worry about playing all these parts as they're written out. This is written out in 4-part harmony, soprano, alto, tenor, bass. Way back in the day when just about everybody knew how to read music, when you'd sing a hymn like this in church, everybody would sing their part. So I'd be singing the bass, most likely. Anyway, we're just going to worry about the tune and use the written out parts to help us figure out what chord is good to use there. So you'll notice right away, of course, we are in the key of D because we've got 2 sharps in the key signature. We're also in 9/8 time, you might notice. So we've got 9 beats per measure. But notice the first measure only has 3 beats in it. So this is actually a pickup bar. Because down here, if you go to the last bar of the piece, you'll notice there's only 6 beats. So they borrowed 3 from here, put it up here to get the hymn started. So we're not going to worry about playing a chord until we get here, the first full measure. So take a look at the notes of that chord. You'll see if you look at the parts, and you need to know how to read the bass clef, by the way, but it's very basic. The middle line is D, and you can kind of figure it out from there. So if you already know the bass clef, this will help you. So you've got D, F sharp, D, and A. Those notes, of course, are contained in the D major chord, so our first chord is D. Notice the melody goes to G here. And so that indicates we're going to need a different chord. And because the other notes here are D, B, and G, well, those are the notes contained within the G major chord. Now, what we have here, and this is typical in a lot of hymns that are written out this way, is the chord changes on every beat. But it's going pretty fast. This chord will go by very quickly. Even though we have the notes D, F sharp, D, and A, technically that's a D major chord. Now, if you want, you can play G, D, G really fast, or you can just consider this A what we would call in music a passing tone or a non-harmonic tone because it goes by so quickly. So we're just going to say this is all going to be G and it goes back to D. Still D because we still have A, F sharp A, and the D, D, D in the bass. Still D right here, but then notice what happens here. The melody goes to C sharp. So that indicates another chord needs to be used there. It looks like that's going to be A because we've got C sharp in the melody. We've also got A in the tenor and a couple of E's there. So this is like A in second inversion because E, the fifth of the chord, is in the bass. Now here, when we get to this part, we've got E in the bass, D, E, and B. These are three of the four notes contained within the E chord, or E7 chord, I should say. There's the G sharp that we're heading towards. So we can just call that E7. Call this, once again, passing notes. We're not worried about all these other notes. We're just worried about the tune. It goes by quickly on its way down to G sharp. Then it resolves back to A. A, of course, being the 5 chord in the key of D, leads us back to D. And so we have the same thing here. These measures are the same as these measures here. So we go D, G, back to D. Same thing here. That's still on the key of D. Another passing chord goes by really quickly. We're only concerned about the melody. And we have G. And then the melody goes down to E. So this is kind of an E minor over G, or E minor in first inversion. And then notice here, the bass goes to A, F sharp, D. Those are our three notes that comprise the D major chord. So it's actually D in second inversion. Immediately goes to A7 and then back to D. Now, technically, if you wanted to use this D as a non-harmonic tone, you could go directly from E minor over G to A7. But let's try it this way and see what you think. You may not mind switching chords really fast there at that point. Now we're in the chorus, still on D because those are the notes of the D major chord. And then here it's obviously G. The melody goes to B. The bass goes to G. There's our D. Back to D right here. Once again to G. Now notice the bass, if you're reading the bass clef, it goes from G to F sharp. But we also have D and A. So what we have here is D. We can call it D over F sharp, which means it's D in first inversion, which leads us actually to A, because here is A, C sharp, and E, but E is in the bass as well. So this is A over E, A, second inversion. Then resolves to E. You remember how when we were doing chord voicings, when you play something in second inversion, it often resolves to the note that previously was the fifth, now becomes the root. And then that in turn takes us to A, which in turn, this becomes A7 because you can see the alto goes down to G. That gives us the A7 chord. There's the E that comes in eventually. Now we're back on D. Then G. This one becomes a passing note. It goes by very quickly. Goes by to D. D, D, D. There's another passing chord right there. Goes by quickly. G. There's our E minor over G. Here is our, this could be D over A and then A7, or just play A7 all the way through that measure, and then we end up on D. So what we've created now is sort of a hybrid. It's a hymn, but it's also a lead sheet of the hymn that you can ignore all the other notes and just concentrate now on the chords, which obviously these are basic chords that you already know how to play. And we can begin to experiment with different ways of voicing those chords and different ways of creating an accompaniment. Perhaps if somebody is singing it and you don't have to worry about the melody anymore, all you have to do is worry about the chords. So we're going to do some experimenting now. I'm going to change to the overhead keyboard, and we'll play through this and see how many different ways we can do it. Just give you some ideas as to how you can play this particular hymn. Now that you have a basic lead sheet here of sorts that you can use to play this hymn, let's begin by reviewing the tune. Starting here on the F sharp. Now, you may be able to pick this tune out by ear, knowing that you're in the key of D, or you may just read it directly off of the hymnal sheet here, and by reading the soprano line, you get the melody. Either way, let's just play the tune. So we have a pickup bar here, so we're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Use whatever fingers feel comfortable. And now here's the chorus. Notice the rhythm there right at the end. That's the only time this occurs. You have a dotted eighth, 16th, eighth, and then back to the D. Now, let's play through it again. This time, I'm going to play the melody in the right hand, and now we're going to add chords in the left hand. You might want to review what chords we're playing here. You've got a D major, you've got a G. Notice I'm playing the G in second inversion. This way I don't have to go like this, or this is in root position, second inversion, it goes right back to D. And then A, we can play it this way in second inversion. And then here we have an E7. We could actually play all four notes. And then A, we can play it this way, or we could play it that way, or this way. We'll figure it out when we get there. Now we're back on the G, or excuse me, the D, and then the G and D, and then G, and then A7, and D. And you'll see the rest of the chords. We've played these before. So let's play it along now with the melody. And what I'm going to do is play a chord after every group of three. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that first measure, as you remember, is a pickup bar. So we're singing, or excuse me, we're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. G and D. Notice I went right to the A7 there. But I left out the C sharp. That way it harmonizes very nicely with this D. And now we have the complete A7 chord there. Back to D. Now here's the chorus. Now we're going to use the inverted form of D so that we can go directly to this A. And then, here we go. So obviously that's a very simple way to play this hymn. It certainly works. It certainly sounds very nice. Now, let's see if we can make this a little bit more interesting. First of all, let's try some different things in the left hand. Instead of playing block chords, let's play arpeggios, maybe something like this. Let's see how that works. We'll slow it down a little bit so that you can see how it all fits together. We can play that and stop for a second, and then we don't have to play anything here, just use this as pickup notes. So we're outlining part of the A7 chord there as we play the melody. Now we're in the chorus. Notice what I did there. So we went. These are the kind of things that you can work out for yourself. There's one way you can do it. We could also add some chords in the right hand and then add some lower notes in the bass. So what I'm doing here is just outlining the chord. And then a solid chord there, and then a little 4-note arpeggio. So this is more of a flowing version. We're not necessarily trying to fill up all the spaces. You can play chords here instead of just notes. Here I'm playing a very full G major chord and just playing the melody on top of it. Here's our little 3-4-note arpeggio. You can get really fancy at the end there. Now, let's say somebody is singing the song. Then you can play just an accompaniment part. They might be singing, "Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. Da, da, dee, 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 dee." Now you're playing arpeggios in the right hand. Heir of salvation, purchase of God. I'm not much of a singer. Born of his spirit, washed in his blood. So you get the idea. Whoops. Also, if somebody's singing, you could just strum the chords like a guitarist. So, as you can see, I've just basically scratched the surface when it comes to how many different ways you can play this hymn. You could actually play the melody up here. With arpeggios in the left hand. And chords in the right hand. So I hope this gives you some idea as to how you can play hymns. There's a lot of freedom involved here when you're not trying to read the notes exactly as they're written on the page. Have some fun with this, and maybe you'll even get a chance to play it for a group of people who want to worship the Lord together and sing this beautiful hymn. Well, there you go. There's an introduction as to how to play from a hymnal. And if there's a particular hymn that you'd like to learn how to play and you would like me to help guide you through it, let me know in the comments, and I'll be happy to go through that hymn with you. I've probably played just about every hymn in the hymnal, so there may be a few out there that I don't know, but if I don't know it, I'll learn it, and we'll learn how to play it together. So I hope this has been helpful for you. If you have any questions, any comments, please let me know in the comment section. I respond to every comment and try to answer every question that I receive. If you have not yet subscribed to At Home with Music, and the majority of my viewers are not subscribed, I encourage you to do so. That helps the channel a lot. Also, like the video. That also helps the channel. If you've already subscribed, thank you very much. I'm very grateful. Thanks for watching. I look forward to speaking to you in the next one.